Hello, my name is Jason Backus, and this is my data overview for Alexander High School. The purpose of this data overview is to engage in dialogue about our school's data, to identify some of our school's strengths and weaknesses, and to open up discussion about the action plans that we can take to close any achievement gaps. So if we take a look at our overall school demographics, you can see by ethnicity that we have a majority of white non-Hispanics. However, if you look closely, that percentage has decreased over the last 3 years, and I think that it will continue to do so as our school becomes more diverse. If you look at our subgroups by students with disabilities, limited English proficiency, free and reduced lunch, and migrant students, a couple things to point out is we have no migrant students, but we do have over 50% of our students on free and reduced lunch, and that percentage has increased over the last 3 years. Take a look at the staff information. One thing I do want to point out here is we only have 5% staff with 30 years of experience or more, and almost half our staff has 10 years of experience or less, which is something to consider when we're talking about instructional initiatives and closing the achievement gaps and things that we can initiate in our school system. So let's look at our EOCT data from the last 3 years and all the subjects that we give in EOCT. Here we have economics, physical science, U.S. history, biology, math 2, math 1, geometry, algebra, American Lit, 9th grade Lit. Math is a little bit weird because we change curriculums in the middle of this 3-year period, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But there's a lot of stuff to point out here. I just want to point out a couple things. One, I want to look at an area of strength. If you look at our U.S. history, American Lit, EOCT scores over the last 3 years, you see there's a steady increase. So we go, let's say, from U.S. history from 78% 3 years ago, meeting or exceeding the EOCT, to 86% of the students meeting or exceeding on the EOCT. And I think that's a large increase. In American Lit, we're increasing from 80% of their students to 85%. And so I think we're doing a great job here, and I just want to point that out, that we do have strong areas of strengths here at Alexander High School. However, we do have some areas of weakness. And one of those areas of weaknesses is my own math department. The math EOCT yearly pass rate for the last 3 years have dropped from 44% down to 33% over the last 3 years. So why do you think the number of students meeting or exceeding the area of math is decreasing over the years and is significantly lower than the state average? So I've heard some teachers say that it could be the fact that we're changing the curriculum, and when you change the curriculum, it's really hard to get a grasp on things, and so it takes a little while to get used to the curriculum. But what I want to do is I want to get in groups, and I want y'all to discuss this among yourselves and see if we've got some answers. But keep in mind that whatever answers you have about why our scores are decreasing, also keep in mind that our scores are significantly lower than the state average. And so we're going to look at that in just a minute. But go ahead and get in groups and discuss that. Alright, so here's a 3-year comparison data plan for mathematics, or EOCT data. And so this points out that the blue is Alexander, the red is Douglas County, and the orange is the state of Georgia. That we have been significantly lower, I say significantly, I think it is, than the state average. So we have 44%, pass EOCT, where the state had 49% 3 years ago. Well, last year we had 33% and the state had 40%, so that gap has widened. Not only is our EOCT pass rate in mathematics gotten lower over the last 3 years, but so is the state's, and so is the county. Now, we are exceeding in the county. We are doing better than the other schools in the county, but at Alexander High School, we don't want to just be the best in the county, but we want to be one of the best high schools in the state. And so we really need to have discussions about what it is or what we can do to increase the pass rate of our EOCTs. So let's look at the EOCT for mathematics. Let's break it down into some groups here. So let's look at males and females. If you look at males and females, we had a larger percentage of females meet or exceeds the EOCT in mathematics than males. And this is just looking at 2013. So I just thought that was interesting. And if you look at kids with limited language proficiency, you notice we have 54% meet and 44% not meet, which is kind of actually higher than our overall average, our overall percentage. So that's nice. But one thing I want to point out is that we only had 2% exceeds, which to me is kind of scary that such a small percentage of kids in that subgroup exceeded the EOCT, which is even scarier when you look at the next slide, which is students with disabilities. Here you have 41% meet, and 59% does not meet, but the statistic I want to point out with 0% of students with disabilities exceed, and I think that's something we need to focus on. We don't need to be, in my opinion, excited about 41% meeting, but we need to look at the 0% exceeding, and we want to get our kids to push themselves and push ourselves to increase the learning in our classrooms to get that 0% higher. So let's look at an area where we actually close an achievement gap. If you look at students with disabilities in 2012 and 2013, we've actually increased the percentage of kids who met from 36% to 41%. So we increased by 5%, which is great. However, we still have 0% kids exceed the EOCT for both those years. So we need to continue to look at that. So in summary, the percentage of Alexander students meeting or exceeding standards on the math EOCT is lower than the state percentage. Also, the number of students meeting or exceeding in math is considerably lower than other subjects. Couple things to point out in our last couple slides is we noticed that female students in 2013 outperformed male students, and that the percentage of students with disabilities meeting or exceeding on the math EOCT is increasing. So that's good. One thing I want to do is I want to talk about the percentage of students with disabilities meeting or exceeding on the math EOCT has increased, and what we can do to assist other subgroups to do the same and have the same success. How can we get English language learners to increase? How can we get the economically disadvantaged subgroups to increase? And so when we start talking about these different subgroups and we start talking about what we can do to get these kids increasing, we start increasing our overall pass rate and our overall exceeds rate. And so that's what I want to do. I want to break up in groups and kind of discuss that and talk about that. Thank you.